We are days away from the regular season, ladies and gentlemen. The preseason is in the books. Players are ready to go, at least I hope anyway. And it is that time of year right after the preseason, before the start of the regular season, where I give my predictions on how the Chicago Bulls will perform this season, specifically where they'll be finishing in the Eastern Conference, how many wins they're going to be getting, and any potential player season awards. And it's what we'll be covering in this video. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. I can't wait for the start of the season, man. I know it might not be the best season. I know the Bulls aren't going to be competing for a championship, but I just love basketball. And as I've said before, there is more to be excited about this current Bulls team and their overall future than what it was just 2 years ago. Doesn't mean I think that it's perfect and that there still aren't issues with how this roster is being built. Still a lot of work to do, past mistakes that need to be corrected and learned from, but the future isn't as bleak as it used to be. Now, rather than me going through and listing out my Eastern Conference standing predictions 1 through 15, conference standings prediction video on my NBA channel. I'll leave a link to that in case you're interested. But if you did happen to catch that video, you probably saw I had the Bulls finishing 8th in the Eastern Conference. However, I'm changing my mind. I'm changing my mind because when it comes to predicting what to expect from this team, I'm going to go with my bolder take. I'm going to go with the higher ceiling. I'm going to go with the glass half full approach. And I'm saying the Bulls are going to finish 6th in the Eastern Conference. Now, don't get me wrong. In order for this to happen, a lot of things have to go right for the Bulls. Bruce Ellis has to really break out and be a most improved player of the year candidate. Coby White has to continue on from what we saw at the end of last season when he was the Eastern Conference Player of the Month and averaging over 28 points per game. Hopefully he's fully healthy and ready to go to start the year. Josh Giddey will have to get the Josh Giddey we saw in the back half of the season, not the first half. Patrick Williams needs to be healthy, be consistent, be aggressive, be active on both ends of the floor. Noah Asenge has to come in and contribute and be more NBA ready than what people are expecting. Isaac Okoro, who did not look that great in the preseason, he's got to be the voice on defense, the defensive stopper and the point of attack, be the energy guy that gets this team going. And of course, the Bulls got to stay healthy. Easier said than done, I know, and obviously every team goes through injuries, but in order for the Bulls to actually finish 6th in the Eastern Conference, they cannot have any major injuries or have their core players being in and out of the lineup all season, throwing off that continuity. Now, I'm sure for the naysaying Bulls fans, you're going to say, look, even if all things go right, how can you possibly have the Bulls finishing 6th in the East? Even picking them 8th is a stretch when you see most media outlets projecting them to finish 11th or 12th and missing the play-in. Well, here's how I look at the Eastern Conference. There are those teams that are hands down for sure better than the Bulls that you can instantly put them ahead of Chicago. The Cavs, Knicks, Pistons, Magic. Like, those are teams that I can say unequivocally, assuming health, that they all stay healthy, will be better than the Chicago Bulls. All right, so that's 4 teams. Yes, it's likely teams like the Bucks, Hawks, I would even say the Celtics, because I think they're still a decent team despite not having Jason Tatum. They've got a great coaching staff, and Jaylen Brown is still available. Derek White, one of the more underrated players in the league. Yes, the Miami Heat, you could put them ahead of the Bulls, even though I'm not sold on the Heat, especially with another injury to Tyler Hero, but I can see why some would have the Heat ahead of the Bulls. Of course, the Sixers, biggest wild card team in the East, right? Are Embiid and Paul George going to be healthy? Is Maxey going to take another step up? Is VJ Edgecombe, who they got with the 3rd pick in the draft, is he going to start contributing right away? So yes, there are a handful of teams that you can say could be better than the Bulls, but I wouldn't say with a certainty that they will be. And so for me, I'm putting those 4 teams that I know are going to be better than the Bulls ahead of them, and then I'm banking on one of those other teams that I called out to finish in front of the Bulls as well. Most likely the Bucks, just because regardless of their lack of depth, they still have Giannis, are one of the better 3-point shooting teams in the league. Shooters in space around Giannis is still a team that can finish top 5 in the East, even though I think I would agree that the Bucks don't have a legitimate shot at contending for a championship. As I've said before, I'm not sold on the Hawks. I don't think adding Porzingis is really going to make them considerably better. I'm not a big Trae Young guy, never have been. Great player, but doesn't raise your floor enough to the point where you can say this roster can be a top team in the East, as evident by the fact that they've been a play-in team for the last 3 years, even when they added a player like DeJounte Murray. Now, in terms of how many wins I expect from this team, well, for the 6th seed in the East, it doesn't really take a whole lot. And we're talking about an Eastern Conference this season that is wide open and is probably going to be all over the place. But I'm going with 43 wins. They're finally going to end that streak of 39 or 40 wins over the last 3 years. They're going to finish above 500 just slightly and avoiding the play-in and punching their ticket to the playoffs for the first time since 2022. It's a bold prediction. You can call it a hot take, but with the way things are looking in the Eastern Conference, I don't think it is out of the realm of possibility. And the reason I believe the Bulls are going to be better than expected, even though I know they didn't look that great in the preseason, although their last game was really good. But keep in mind, they were without arguably their best player in the preseason, in Coby White. But the reason I think they'll be better is because we know this team likes to play fast. We know their goal is to wear down teams, even if they don't necessarily have the same talent level as their opponent. We know, going off of what we saw at the end of last season, Coby and Josh Giddey really thrived and fed off each other as the lead guards after Zach LaVine was traded. The floor spacing improved a lot with the addition of a movement shooter like Kevin Huerter. Tre Jones, can't forget what a great pickup Tre Jones was, and he wasn't even playing towards the very end of the season. But the big reason why I think the Bulls are going to be better than most people expect is because of the ascendance of Matas Buzelis. I know I keep hyping this kid up, but based on what we saw in the preseason, and of course how he finished off the season last year, he's ready. He is capable of being a very impactful force on both ends of the floor and being the best player on this team by the time the season ends. I think he's going to have an incredible season, a season where I'm not going to say he's going to win the Most Improved Player of the Year award, as that's really hard to do for a second-year player, but he'll definitely be in that conversation, and a season where I don't think he'll make an all-star team, but one in which we'll say, this kid absolutely can make an all-star team in his 3rd or 4th year. It's going to be that type of season for Matas Buzelis, and what gives me confidence in saying that is his drive, his desire to get better and be one of the best players in the league, doing everything he can to learn from others, work on every facet of his game. He has the mentality that I feel is very rare nowadays with young players, but to be the ultimate competitor, that edge, the fire of wanting to be the best, beat up his competition. He wants to be that guy, and it's one thing to want to be that guy but not have the skills to get there, but Matas does, and Matas is the main reason why I'm projecting the Bulls to be better than expected. Now, as far as any major in-season awards go to the Bulls and whether any players will actually be in the running for these, I mean, aside from Matas likely being in consideration for the Most Improved Player of the Year award, not sure I see much of any other potential areas where we could see some Bulls players getting the nod. I guess there was a world where Ayo could be considered for Sixth Man of the Year, although, and I call this out in one of my preseason postgame videos, with the way Ayo has been playing and looking like one of the best players on the roster in the preseason, and Okoro not looking that great, it might be more of a reality where Ayo actually gets the start and Okoro comes off the bench. But if Ayo is a player that is consistently coming off the bench for most of the year and he plays like the way we saw in the preseason, there is a chance he could be in the running for the Sixth Man of the Year. I don't foresee any Bulls players getting the All-Star nod or All-NBA nod. I mean, I won't say never, but if Giddey or Coby played like they did in March and April of last year, yeah, they could be in that category to get some votes and potentially be selected. I mean, they were putting up All-Star level numbers. The question is whether the team record will be good enough for them to be able to make an All-Star run. Being selected as an All-Star is highly predicated on your team's record. You can't just put up a bunch of stats on a really bad team and expect to make an all-star team. And then outside of that, I don't see Asenge getting all rookie honors just because I don't think he'll probably be getting enough playing time to be able to do that. I don't think there are any guys on the team that are in a position to be all defensive team players. Like even if, Matas wants to get there and he believes he can be an all defensive caliber player, I feel like he's still got some years to go before getting there. So anyway, those are my predictions for the Chicago Bulls in this upcoming season. 6th seed, 41 wins, potentially some Most Improved Player of the Year votes from Matas Buzelis. Maybe we see an all-star selection from Coby or Giddey, but I think that's more unlikely. That said, I would love to hear where you guys have the Bulls finishing this season, what seed, how many wins. Let me know in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.